I'm gonna have to play high.
Right here. I know what you're
One, two. Take loader.
All power to the... Don't go.
Check. Too low. On the move.
On the move!
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 May 13th. We're going to get our day of remembrance started in just a moment. We want to invite you to join us closer. Those of you who are holding signs, we want you to come to the front. And we're going to get started in just a moment.
Go 14.
Greetings family. Before we get started, we just want to take a moment together to just take some breaths together. There's been a little bit of hustle and bustle, of course, as we've been pulling ourselves together. And at the same time, this is a really substantial day and a really significant moment. And so we don't want to diminish the significance of it with the rushing, right? We want to have a moment and just sit in the spirit of this moment. And so I want to just invite us to just take a few breaths together to ground ourselves in the now. So let's just take some breaths. I'm going to just lift my arm for inhale, and I'm going to bring my arm back down for an exhale. This is a day that's a difficult day for anyone who can think back and remember what we're here for, why we're here. And it's harder for some others of us than it is, for some of us than it is for others. The thing I want us to all remember is that there are names on these cards, and these names belong to people that were known and loved, including by people who are standing here with us right now and today. And so I want us to put some extra energy. May 13th is a very difficult day for all of us. It's particularly difficult for the family that we are here standing with. And so let us just put some energy of love around those individuals, because this is an extra difficult day and an extra difficult time. Okay, so we're going to begin, and we're just going to talk about the incidents that brought us to have to commemorate today. Okay.
On the move. Thank y'all for coming out. I was telling my sister comrade Crystal, when I was growing up, there were 3 days I hated. Mother's Day, because my mother was in prison. When everybody else was going out with their mothers, I wasn't part of that. Christmas, because we didn't do Christmas. And the other kids were getting their toys and remote control cars, and we weren't part of that. The other day was May 13th. Just every day is a reminder, every May 13th is a reminder of what happened to my family right down the street. I appreciate everybody for being here, coming. I know people are busy, but it's important to me that you came to help us say their names. The lives of 11 people, 5 children and 6 adults, were taken at 6221 Osage Avenue on May 13th, 1985. As we gather in this place, we must say their names. When I say their names, we will take a moment of silence for each life and say, Ashe. The children's whose lives should have been protected. Tree Africa. Tree Africa. Netta Africa. Delisha Africa. Little Phil Africa. Tomato Africa. The adults whose lives should have been respected. Rhonda Africa. Teresa, Africa.
Ashe.
Frank, Africa.
Ashe.
Raymond, Africa.
Ashe.
Conrad, Africa.
Ashe.
And John, Africa.
Ashe.
The two survivors of this horrific act of state terrorism. A MOVE member, child, Birdie, Africa, escaped with third-degree burns, but he lost his mother, Rhonda. And he also transitioned in 2013. Ashe for Birdie.
Ashe. Ashe.
And our sister and continued freedom fighter, Ramona, Africa, who was incarcerated for 7 years after this bombing with charges of riot and conspiracy. She continues to survive. Ashe.
At this time, 5:27 p.m. on May 13th, 1985, Philadelphia police, firefighters, and elected officials, including the city's first black mayor, Wilson Goode, dropped a bomb on 13 members of the MOVE organization living at 6221 Osage Avenue. The violent assault by the city of Philadelphia that escalated to the bombing of MOVE headquarters, in fact, began a whole day before, on Sunday, May 12, 1985, which was also Mother's Day. This day was the start of a 2-day-long attack on the MOVE organization. This was no mistake. Police Commissioner Gregor Sambor believed Mother's Day was the best day to launch an assault on MOVE. He anticipated that the black residents of Osage Avenue would leave, go to church, go visit their relatives, and not return home. Sambor planned to use this day of reverence to attack MOVE in secret, without anyone to bear witness. On Mother's Day, Osage Avenue residents were ordered by the police to evacuate their homes by 10 p.m. Neighbors reluctantly left their homes, angry at the disturbance and not knowing that they would be unable to return. Some neighbors tried to stay in place, but police conducted searches of the homes on the block and forcibly removed residents who tried to stand their ground. 62nd and Osage Avenue was placed under military occupation. Police spent the day setting up barricades in the area and preparing for their attack. Police helicopters flew overhead, and officers and detectives manned checkpoints around the residential area. During this time period, police escorted MOVE children who were not in the house on Osage Avenue back into the home in advance of the attack on the house. MOVE supporters from throughout the city gathered on Osage Avenue in protest. Some made futile attempts to negotiate with the police. Others gathered to protest but were arrested. In the early morning of May 13th, 1985, around 3 a.m., utility crews cut off gas and electricity to the 6200 block of Osage Avenue. Sharpshooters and members of the bomb disposal unit began to set up on Pine Street near MOVE's home. Hundreds of police formed a diamond formation around the area, on rooftops and at the street level. Several of the cops on site on May 13th had also been involved in the police raid of Moose Powelton Village home on August 8, 1978, which led to the death of one officer and the brutal capture of several MOVE members, most notably Delbert Africa, whose beating was caught on tape. One officer who participated in Delbert's beating was also present on May 13th. At 5:35 a.m. on May 13th, Commissioner Sambor shouted over a bullhorn from his post inside another home on the block, "Attention, move. This is America. You have to abide by the laws of the United States." This was his so-called warning for the family to surrender. 15 minutes later, at 5:50 a.m., MOVE members refused to come out under the ring of deadly firepower, saying, "We ain't got a motherfucking thing to lose, so come on down and get us." In the decade prior, dozens of MOVE members had already been beaten and shot by police, had hundreds of members jailed and incarcerated. Had the city sieged their home 7 years earlier on August 8, 1978, had been subject to city welfare agencies removing their children and even jailing pregnant MOVE women. They believed there was nothing left to lose but their freedom.
Shortly after, police began a full-scale military attack on the MOVE home, where there were 7 adults, some of them parents, 6 children, and animals inside. Police fired tear gas and smoke projectiles at 6221 Osage Avenue. The gas covered the entire neighborhood in a blanket of stifling and blinding smoke. With spectators and media unable to see, police began to blow 3-inch holes in the walls and foundation of MOVE's home in order to flood the interior with tear gas. The city used the same water that firefighters are meant to use to protect citizens as a weapon. Water cannons poured thousands of gallons of high-pressure water onto MOVE's roof, trying unsuccessfully to destroy a bunker that MOVE had erected to counter-surveil police who watch MOVE on a regular basis. 10 minutes later, around 6 a.m., police began firing bullets at the MOVE home. These first shots initiated an uneven shootout with MOVE members who tried to defend themselves, their home, and their children. MOVE was armed with non-automatic weapons, rifles, shotguns, and pistols. For the next 90 minutes between 6 and 7:30 a.m., police fired at least 10,000 rounds of ammunition into the home. During the ensuing chaos, teams of police lobbed blocks of C4 at 6221, which blew most of MOVE's front porch into the street. Concerned observers and activists, well aware that children were in the house, made desperate pleas to any available person in authority to halt the madness, but their cries were unheeded. Police blew up the rest of the porch with C4.
This militaristic attack continued throughout the day until the evening. With the support of the FBI, Philadelphia police were armed and equipped with tear gas, water cannons, and high-grade military weapons that were, at that time, hardly ever found in the hands of city police departments. This included M16s, a potent weapon developed for use in the Vietnam War. Other law enforcement were armed with automatic rifles with silencers, Uzis, a 50 caliber machine gun, and a 20 millimeter armor-piercing anti-tank gun. Some of the bullets were 11 inches long, longer than the average person's hand or foot. These bullets can penetrate the trunks of trees and even bricks. The federal government also provided C4 bombs to the city of Philadelphia. At 5:27 p.m., the police dropped 4 pounds of C4 on the Move house from a borrowed state police helicopter. The massive explosion, felt a mile away, failed to dislodge the bunker, but it did quickly start a fire on the roof. Still intent on destroying the bunker, the police commissioner suggested to the fire commissioner that they use the fire. The fire commissioner agreed and gave an order for his men to deliberately let the fire burn.
When the burning bunker fell through the roof, it drove the fire into the second floor interior and soon engulfed the porch area, where flames quickly leapfrogged to the adjacent houses, raging out of control. The fire was deliberately allowed to burn. With the upper floors of the house burning intensely, Move members took refuge in the rear of the basement, with women and children huddling in blankets soaked in water. Move members repeatedly tried to escape from the back of the house, but were met with police gunfire. During their attempts, Ramona Africa and 13-year-old Birdie Africa escaped alive and were taken into custody. Several other adults and children also came out into the alley to escape the fire. Several police veterans of the 1978 confrontation were waiting for them. Various statements by police and even the police commissioner himself confirmed that the cops had fired in the alley as the block burned. According to police logs, one officer in particular, by the name of Marcus Barriana, who was one of Rizzo's cops from the assault on Move in Powelton Village 7 years earlier, was stationed at the back alley. He fired over 1,500 shots from several firearms.
It was not only the bombing that killed 6 Move adults and 5 Move children on May 13, 1985. The city of Philadelphia intentionally and deliberately eliminated the possibility of their survival. Move members tried over and over and over again to escape and survive, but they were shot at and pushed back into the inferno to perish. Move members were forced to endure brutal, unthinkable deaths, all because firefighters and police, duty-bound to serve and protect the people, were commanded to let the fire burn. For hours, the fire raged on Osage Avenue, spreading to Pine Street to the north, Addison to the south, and beyond. In the process, 2 city blocks and 61 homes were burned to the ground. The city of Philadelphia caused this horrific loss of beloved, precious life, where there could have been survival.
This disregard of life did not end there. On May 14th, police sharpshooters returned in the early morning hours without authorization to disturb the scene of the bombing and attack. The bodies of 6 adults and 5 children were recovered from the smoldering ruins after a crane had scooped through it, obliterating exact recovery positions. Medical examiner personnel left the bodies unrefrigerated, making the delayed test to determine the cause of death inconclusive even though bullets were found in some of the bodies. The Philadelphia Medical Examiner's Office later had their certification revoked because of this blatant disregard. We now know that 2 forensic anthropologists from the University of Pennsylvania at the time, Alan Mann and Janet Monge, who consulted on this case, stole the remains of Delisha Africa and Tree Africa without the knowledge and consent of the Move family, and they experimented on them for teaching and for research and for profit.
Say their names again. The lives of 11 people, 5 children, and 6 adults were taken at 6221 Osage Avenue on May 13th, 1985. Before we leave this place, we must again say their names. This is hallowed ground. We will take a moment of silence for each life and say Ashe. The children whose lives should have been protected, Tree Africa.
Ashe.
She was 14 years old. Netta Africa.
Ashe.
She was 12 years old. Delisha Africa.
Ashe.
She was 13 years old. Little Phil Africa.
Ashe.
12 years old. And Tommaso Africa.
Ashe.
9 years old. And the adults whose lives should have been respected, Rhonda Africa.
Ashe.
Teresa Africa.
Ashe.
Frank Africa.
Ashe.
Raymond Africa.
Ashe.
Conrad Africa.
Ashe.
And John Africa.
Ashe.
And the 2 survivors of this horrific act of state terrorism, Birdie Africa and Ramona Africa, who continues to survive on the move.
Long live John Africa. Long live John Africa. Yes.
All right. All right, family. This is hallowed ground. This is hallowed ground. We honor the lives that were stolen on May 13th, 1985. And we ask you to join us in processing up Osage Avenue. We will stop at 6221 Osage Avenue. And we will say the names again of members of the Move family whose lives were taken on May 13th, 1985. We ask you to repeat their names with us as we walk down the street. We want you to follow behind us if you are on the sidewalk. Rhonda, Africa. Rhonda, Africa. Teresa, Africa. Teresa, Africa. Frank, Africa. Frank, Africa. Raymond, Africa. Raymond, Africa. Conrad, Africa. Conrad, Africa. John, Africa. John, Africa.
John, Africa.
Tree, Africa.
Tree, Africa.
Tree, Africa.
Tree, Africa.
Delisha, Africa.
Delisha, Africa.
Delisha, Africa.
Delisha, Africa.
Netta, Africa.
Netta, Africa.
Netta, Africa.
Netta, Africa.
Little Phil, Africa.
Little Phil, Africa.
Little Phil, Africa.
Little Phil, Africa.
Tommaso, Africa.
Tommaso, Africa.
Tommaso, Africa.
Tommaso, Africa.
Rhonda, Africa.
Rhonda, Africa.
Rhonda, Africa.
Rhonda, Africa.
Teresa, Africa.
Teresa, Africa.
Teresa, Africa.
Teresa, Africa. Just wanted to thank Owen Brown and Urban Classic for the accompaniment. Just want to appreciate the added energy and spirit that they brought to the moment. We're going to now move down. So you all can follow us. Move down and we're going to say the name.
Rhonda, Africa.
Rhonda, Africa.
Rhonda, Africa.
Rhonda, Africa.
Teresa, Africa.
Teresa, Africa.
Teresa, Africa.
Teresa, Africa.
Frank, Africa.
Frank, Africa.
Frank, Africa.
Frank, Africa.
Raymond, Africa.
Raymond, Africa.
Raymond, Africa.
Raymond, Africa.
Conrad, Africa.
Conrad, Africa.
Conrad, Africa.
Conrad, Africa.
John, Africa.
John, Africa.
John, Africa.
John, Africa.
Tree, Africa.
Tree, Africa.
Tree, Africa.
Tree, Africa.
Delisha, Africa.
Delisha, Africa.
Delisha, Africa.
Delisha, Africa.
Netta, Africa.
Netta, Africa.
Netta, Africa.
Netta, Africa.
Little Phil, Africa.
Little Phil, Africa.
Little Phil, Africa.
Little Phil, Africa.
Tommaso, Africa.
Tommaso, Africa.
Tommaso, Africa.
Tommaso, Africa.
Rhonda, Africa.
Rhonda, Africa.
Rhonda, Africa.
Rhonda, Africa.
Teresa, Africa.
Teresa, Africa.
Teresa, Africa.
Teresa, Africa.
Frank, Africa.
Frank, Africa.
Frank, Africa.
Frank, Africa.
Raymond, Africa.
Raymond, Africa.
Raymond, Africa.
Raymond, Africa.
Conrad, Africa.
Conrad, Africa.
Conrad, Africa.
Conrad, Africa.
John, Africa.
John, Africa.
John, Africa.
John, Africa.
Tree, Africa.
Tree, Africa.
Tree, Africa.
Tree, Africa.
Delisha, Africa.
Delisha, Africa.
Delisha, Africa.
Delisha, Africa.
Netta, Africa.
Netta, Africa.
Netta, Africa.
Netta, Africa.
Little Phil, Africa.
Little Phil, Africa.
Little Phil, Africa.
Little Phil, Africa.
Tommaso, Africa.
Tommaso, Africa.
Tommaso, Africa.
Tommaso, Africa.
Rhonda, Africa.
Rhonda, Africa.
Rhonda, Africa.
Rhonda, Africa.
Teresa, Africa.
Teresa, Africa.
Teresa, Africa.
Teresa, Africa.
Frank, Africa.
Frank, Africa.
Frank, Africa.
Frank, Africa.
Raymond, Africa.
Raymond, Africa.
Raymond, Africa.
Raymond, Africa.
Conrad,
Treat Africa.
Delisha Africa.
Delisha Africa.
Delisha Africa.
Delisha Africa.
Netta Africa.
Netta Africa.
Netta Africa.
Netta Africa.
Little Phil Africa.
Little Phil Africa.
Little Phil Africa.
Little Phil Africa.
Tommaso Africa.
Tommaso Africa.
Tommaso Africa.
Tommaso Africa.
We're going to say their names one more time. Actually, we're going to say their names all at once. Repeat. And we want to go rise in power. We want to rise in volume, right? And then we're going to do a moment of silence. Rhonda Africa.
Rhonda Africa.
Teresa Africa.
Teresa Africa.
Frank Africa.
Frank Africa.
Raymond Africa.
Raymond Africa.
Conrad Africa.
Conrad Africa.
John Africa.
John Africa.
Tree Africa.
Tree Africa.
Delisha Africa.
Delisha Africa.
Netta Africa.
Netta Africa.
Little Phil Africa.
Little Phil Africa.
Tommaso Africa.
Tommaso Africa.
Rhonda Africa.
Rhonda Africa.
Teresa Africa.
Teresa Africa.
Frank Africa.
Frank Africa.
Raymond Africa.
Raymond Africa.
Conrad Africa.
Conrad Africa.
John Africa.
John Africa.
Tree Africa.
Tree Africa.
Delisha Africa.
Delisha Africa.
Netta Africa.
Netta Africa.
Little Phil Africa.
Little Phil Africa.
Tommaso Africa.
Tommaso Africa. Ashe. Ashe. Ashe.
Ashe. This is hallowed ground. We will never forget the beloved lives that were taken at this place on May 13th, 1985. We will never forget what happened at 6221 Osage Avenue. We will continue to seek justice for the Move family. There is still justice to seek for the Move family. We thank you for joining us, and we ask that you walk with us back to the historic marker, and that you take with you the history, the story of what happened here, and that you continue to join us in demanding justice for Move. On the move. On the move. On the move.
We want to thank again Owen Brown and Urban Classic for, being here with us today. And also want to note that Atiola, I don't know if any of you who haven't been there, make sure you find your way over there, 48th Street between Spruce and Pine. Adiola's, they have just not this wonderful, healthy, spirit-building foods. And they're here today. So, if you want to grab a little something to nourish yourself, that's the perfect place to go to do it. So thank you all, and we just want to take a last moment to just be together here in remembrance and in love before we separate. So let's just take some last breaths, not last for our lives, but last for this moment, collective breaths. And when we inhale, we can inhale remembering the love and the power that is MOVE, an organization that is all about life and protecting life. And exhale from yourself, if you would. Of course, you have autonomy, but I invite you to exhale any pain and sadness and release it to the universe. And remembering, again, to inhale love and inhale power and inhale that respect for all life, because that's what we have to move through the world with. We have to move through the world with that strength, that power, and that willingness to not ever falter in our responsibility to honor life and to protect life, because that's another thing that is also what this moment is about. So let's inhale and exhale together. All power to the people.
All power to the people.
On the move.
On the move.
Ashe.
Ashe.
And thank you all for being here. Thank you for coming, for remembering, for not forgetting how important and significant this day is. It's also important that we stand with our family and let them know that we remember what we as a city went through, but what they very personally and particularly went through, and that we hold them and we love them. So we all are appreciative of the willingness that we all come together with. We thank ourselves, we thank each other as we give love to our family. Ashe.